the life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on a day, give it the world. Hello, welcome to my world.
What's going on, all you Facebook Live and YouTube Live fishing freaks? Welcome to this episode of On Another Line live, St. Patrick's Day 2026. You got the old green on here everywhere that you look. Don't want anybody reaching through the screen pinching me. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Sunday, it was 80 degrees and I was putting sunscreen on. Last night, we got like 2 inches of snow and they canceled school today. What is going on? Mother Nature is ticked off or something. I don't know. Hopefully,
Man, I didn't know they canceled school for you guys. That's crazy.
Yeah, man, nuts. I didn't have school. Spent a lot of time editing videos and talked to Todd Cheney, a buddy of mine. We're actually going to fish that open tournament that Great Outdoors Marine or Ferguson's Outdoors out there having it at Yatesville this weekend. I'm really excited about that. Hopping in his boat, first time we've ever fished together. I'm pretty excited. Again, go out there swinging for the fences. They're paying out $5,000 a guarantee for first prize. Gonna have to catch her, man. Congratulations to the Messer boys last weekend for winning the spring banger. I had an awesome time fishing that thing last year with Jared. Casey puts on an awesome event. Him and Jack and everybody that's involved was awesome. I saw that there was a lot of hammers out there. Of course, you got Cameron Dials out there. Jimmy Boone was in the mix. You had people like Ricky Barnett was fishing it. There's just a lot of hammers out there. So taking the dub in one of those things is really good. Matthew Strickland in the house. What's happening, my brother? Saw you down there whacking on some big fish there last weekend, man. Congrats on that. That's awesome stuff. Fishing for the University of Pikeville, which is crazy. Which, by the way, reminds me back to last week. Strix Marine is giving away one bottle of Optic and Graph Cleaner OGC. I think it was Dale messaged me the other day. I will get your product to you. That's not on them. I have to get with him and send it to you. So don't leave a bad review on them. I've just been super, super, super busy. Todd and I were talking about via text message earlier about how hard it is to keep up as a content creator in today's times. Like today I was off work. So I spent the better part of 7 hours of my life today making and producing content to post on, several different social media sites. I do want to thank you guys if you guys are out there new, liking the Facebook page. I had like over 100 last week, which is pretty amazing. Almost that 4,000 follower mark on Facebook. And I really haven't put a ton of effort into Facebook, but I'm really trying to start now. Because I'd like to make Facebook pay a little bit, but it's really tough to get paid by Facebook. You have to have 10,000 plus followers and have a lot of interactions. So it's going to be a while before I get there. But I post the same thing on social medias everywhere. But I did find something that is helping me out, and it may help you guys out if you guys are posting to a bunch of social media sites. Whether that be for, a sports team or, if you're doing the content creating stuff for Facebook for fishing or anything else. I found a website called buffer.com, and it is fairly expensive. It's not super, super expensive, but it was worth it for me. It was $180 for the year, which I gladly paid because you can post unlimited posts and it'll post to multiple up to 3, which is right now what I'm doing, 3 channels: TikTok, Facebook, which then gets pushed over to Instagram, and then YouTube. But I could post one video on all 3 of those platforms at once So it was a no-brainer for me to pull the trigger on that. Again, it's called buffer.com. Seems pretty fairly simplistic to use. Allows me to push one content like video out to everybody. But I spent a better part of 3.5 hours editing an hour-long video that's going to be coming out tomorrow at my trip at Grayson this past weekend. What's up, Gary? How we doing, buddy?
Good old Grayson.
What's up, Tony? I have tried TikTok. I do have it at On Another Line. You can pretty much follow me in any social media site that you want at On Another Line. Just don't follow me to the grocery store because that would be kind of weird. Micah, what's up, buddy? Bastards. That's what I'm talking about. I've never been called a bastard, but the shoe fits, right?
Bastards.
St. Patrick's Day, obviously. So I apologize for getting a little late start, but we were kind of planning on doing 8 o'clock this evening. If I remember about it last week, most folks said that 7:30 start time. Now that the daylight savings time isn't happening, is a little early. So 8 o'clock, I feel like, is a good happy medium between 7:30 and 8:30. Still feel like 8:30 is too late. But I've had several messages on my YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, about how to properly fish different techniques. So I think this is a great place to start the show this evening. One of those being, how do you fish a chatterbait? What chatterbaits do you choose? What trailers do you choose? And that's a big topic right now because it's a huge springtime bait. So I will tell you, like, a retrieve for me, and I'll let JR speak to that on his thoughts too, but a retrieve for a chatterbait is just like a spinnerbait for me. I'm casting and reeling that thing. You can make it as erratic as you want, but I feel like a chatterbait is erratic anyway, depending on what bait you're throwing. There's literally 10,000 different chatterbaits that are out there. Of course, I think, one of the best ones on the market right now is obviously the jackhammer, and that's made by is it still made by Evergreen, or is it a Z-Man product now?
I think it's Z-Man with Evergreen.
Yeah. Problem with those things are they're like $23 a piece. It's crazy. So there's a ton out on the market. You can even pour your own. If you guys saw my YouTube video about last week about how to pour your own chatterbaits, it's pretty simplistic if you have the correct do-it mold jigs. I use a poison tail jig, which works really, really well. Do it actually makes a eye that actually will allow you to, instead of, if you watch my video, I took a punch similar to this right here, and I drove it into the eye of the hook, which opened the eye up so I could put that blade in there. But you're going to break a bunch of those hooks doing that. This is kind of like, it's collateral damage, if you will, because they're like hardened steel hooks, and they're going to break. That's how they keep their edge, how they become so sharp and stay sharp for the longest times they do. You're going to break more than you actually pour, which again may be worth it to you guys, but they do it has like a little hook extension or a link, I think they call it, that fits in there that's already opened up, so you can do that. There's also, let's see, you got the Shock Blade Pro from Picasso is a really good one. You have, I guess, the Slobber Knocker. What are some other ones you throw, Joe?
I typically stick with jackhammer. There's one called a brake blade that I've gotten from Japan. Those are really cool. That's actually a Shimano type product, really. But there's I like all of the Z-Man ones, essentially. The ones that the basic one, the blade doesn't start shaking quite as fast. I like what's the new one called? I can't think of it. It's like Evolution or something like that. But that's a really good one as well. There's a tungsten version that kind of gives you a different sound. Tattoo a mustache. Oh yeah, I might need that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I tell you what, this is the time of year that I throw a chatterbait the most. Matter of fact, I will tell you that I don't throw a chatterbait as much as I should. Now that I started pouring my own, I'll probably start throwing them a lot more just for the simple fact that it cost me like $2 to make one as opposed to $25. And I will be able to tell you, and I'm not saying this because I made it. I bought some really cheap blades from Amazon. There were like 50 of them for like $6 or something. And I was like, you know what? I'll try it, see what happens. If it works, it works. If not, I'm out $6 or whatever. So they came in, poured them up with that poison tail jig, and I threw one the other day just to see how they worked. I could tell zero difference in the way that it ran and functioned compared to a jackhammer. And I threw them side by side on the same rod, on the same line, on the same reel. So I think the biggest thing about the jackhammer is the fact that Z-Man had a patent for a while. I think it actually ran out this past year that you could attach the blade. They were the only one that could attach a blade directly to the hook eye. And that was big, and it kept a lot of people from making that bait, and they probably paid their company off 4 or 5 times over just from that one bait. Because of that
Strike King paid to have that technology, if you will, that design. And honestly, they make a great one too. I didn't mention that one earlier, but the Thunder Cricket is great. The difference is, it's a couple bucks cheaper. I think it starts to shake just as quick. I don't like that the skirt is not hand tied. They just put like a rubber band on it. That's probably the big difference. But they've got good colors. It's a good bait. So I mean, shoot.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest with you, like, there's a lot of different ones. Like Jared was talking about, like the Z-Man makes one called a Mini Max, which is a smaller version, like a more compact. I really wouldn't call it a finesse bait because it's like getting jiggy with it when you cast it. It's like all over the place. It's a lot smaller. They also make the big blade, which, man, if you've ever thrown one, it's like throwing a freaking 2x4 out there and reeling it in. It's like just giving it all kind of crazy stuff. And I think it has the most erratic action of any chatterbait that's out there because it hunts and gets around things more. But again, it's just kind of all on what you feel and what you like. I think you can get by with either pouring your own or picking up a slobber knocker. I think a slobber knocker is like $10 though, aren't they? Like $10.99 or something.
Yeah, they're cheaper. You can get a slobber knocker for $10 or $12. To me, there is a big difference in how fast that begins to shake. Yeah. Evo. So I guess it's not evolution, but evolution. But I like those a lot too. Honestly, I mean, you're going to catch a ton of bass on any of the iterations of them. I've caught a bunch on a slobber knocker. I've caught a bunch on the OG $6 one too. I mean, it's just where it really shines is, grass fishing, and man, it's a great grass fishing bait. Like if I know you can catch quite a bit off of wood with it as well. But to me, like, if I come up on isolated grass patches, that's the first thing I'm going to think of, especially if it's not topped out grass.
Yeah, for sure. But I think one of the biggest overlooked areas for chatterbait fishing is, one, the setup that you're throwing it on, and two, how you're presenting the bait. I will tell you right now, and again, take this for a grain of salt, because again, I get to fish some of the most high-end rods on the planet just for the simple fact is that I'm semi-affiliated with Shimano, so I get extreme discounts on a lot of rods. So I'm not saying you have to have the best of the best, but I do feel like that having the correct rod set up for the chatterbait, I feel like it's one of the only rods on my deck that I feel like that gets strictly used for a chatterbait, and that's because I have a bladed jig rod from Loomis. It's IMX Pro 883 BJR, which is a bladed jig rod. Moderate fast tip, has a lot of backbone. I think the length is well designed. You can really launch that thing out there, even if you're throwing like the 3/8. I think though, like, depending on where you're fishing at, if I could give somebody an idea of, what to throw and when, like as a first time throwing a chatterbait, I would probably start with a lighter chatterbait, something like a 3/8 ounce. 99% of the time, everybody throws like a half ounce and they just go with it. But it all depends on where you're throwing that thing around. As Jared mentioned, if you're throwing it on top of grass and things, because you want that either on the edge of the grass or on top of the grass. So a half ounce bait, you really have to rip it to get it over top of the grass, whereas you can kind of drop it down to a 3/8 to get it over top of that grass. So if I was going to tell a novice or somebody that hasn't thrown a chatterbait, one, if you got the money, spend the money on a jackhammer. This time of year, it's really tough to go wrong with the fire crawl. You're going to want some kind of rod that has a little bit of parabolic bend to it, something that's more moderate action. You're not going to want to throw on like an NRX Plus or something that's really super fast action. You want to be able to have that rod bend and kind of really bow in that, in a parabolic action, as opposed to just having it snap into that bend. Because a lot of times, man, when a fish eats a chatterbait, they absolutely annihilate it. I don't know if they're running away from it or what, but they chew that thing. So what's up, Al? You she's like, wait, they can see me.
she
Went
got
straight
shy real quick.
Straight to shy. But again, I throw it on an 883 BJR, and I think JR's throwing it on NRX Plus 883 BJR. But they make I wish I knew right now. If I had my phone, it's in there. I could pull it up. I think it's a 2-power. I think it's an 822 or an 832 BJR, and I just don't feel like it has enough backbone. Work well with a 3/8 to get into that half ounce round. Pretty tough to throw it. But get something that has a little bit of more parabolic bend. At the very least, throw it on like a medium action rod. Start with a 3/8. Again, this time of year, it's really tough to beat that fire crawl. But something that I'm looking at right now is trailers for that. And I put out a post there the other day on Facebook asking you guys what trailers you throw. I know JR's a big fan of the Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, which is a good one. I've been using the Rapala, what is that? The freeloader. The freeloader, I like it a lot. Has that spike tail, kind of like that Spunk Shad does. The Zako, however you want to say it, from Yamamoto, was designed for the jackhammer in mind. I do feel like that you get bit more using a trailer than not on a chatterbait. And that's kind of the opposite for me on a spinnerbait, because I rarely throw a spinnerbait trailer, but I always throw a trailer on a chatterbait, which is kind of weird.
I actually really like Berkeley makes a nice chatterbait trailer, which is a lot like a Zako. I know a lot of people throw like a boot tail on them. I don't really like that personally. I feel like you've got two things hindering each other. Like the boot tail's going too much in the background. On the front side, you've got the blade going. Personally, I know a lot of people throw them with a Kitech or whatever, so it's something that I prefer. And then honestly, I did spend the money to go on the the NRX Pro or NRX Plus, I should say. Honestly, I like the Poison Adrena composite rod just as much, if not more. I really have two chatterbait setups, which I cannot tell you how many rods I've gone through and reels on chatterbait. I feel like that has been the most difficult thing for me to kind of hone into what I really wanted. My favorite, those two rods are great. Obviously, a composite rod is probably the way to go. You get a little bit more of that parabolic bend. I like that better. A lot of people are very opinionated on that. The other aspect is what type of reel you're going to throw. I don't like anything less than a 7 to 1 gear ratio. Kind of the same for a trap for me. I want a 7 or an 8 gear ratio because I want to be able to really get it out of that grass as fast as I can. And then to me, Bantam is the best reel for it. It is an absolute like beast of a reel. Like that's my favorite for. It's probably my favorite overall reel. Period. Is the Shimano Bantam.
Yeah. So my setup again is that 83 IMX Pro, 12-pound Sunline FC Sniper for the line, because guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not really a purist when it comes to line. I'm a purist of the brands I use. I use Sunline for 50% of my line, and then I have Power Pro braid on the rest of my rods. But I use Sunline FC Sniper for 100% of my rods. It's either 12-pound test or 16-pound test. That's all there is in my boat. And it's probably, well, I can't say that because I have like leader line that's like down to 4-pound test, but it's all FC Sniper. I'm throwing my chatterbait right now on a 150 series Corrado DC. I like a DC on that rod because I can absolutely cast those freaking baits a mile. A lot of times I'm throwing those things in the wind and allows me to throw those baits a lot farther. But I think mine's a 7-to-1 gear ratio, Crowder DC 150. I feel like that you need a little bit more line on a bait like that, especially if you're throwing a half ounce or even bigger. I feel like you can cast those baits an absolute freaking country mile. So having the ability to have that, digital control braking on that 150 DC kind of helps me, one, control my cast, but two, allow me to make more casts because it's less backlashes in the area.
Man, I love talking about chatterbaits. It's just a big fish bait, like I don't catch too many dinks on a chatterbait. It's I don't know. It's one of those things that I feel like I'm still always trying to perfect, and it's a fun thing to throw too because you have that, feedback as well.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if you put this up here or not, JR, but I apologize if it's already been up there. So, Mike, I believe that you're right on there, just as Loco Dragon there says. I believe it does, because if you think about it, we're talking about hydrodynamics, if you will. If we want to get down into the science of how it works, the first thing that's coming through the water is the blade, which is going. It's literally doing this. It's not doing this. It's literally just doing like a waving action, because it's just getting pulled across there, which is causing that. If you could put dye in the water or put it in a wind tunnel and have it do that, what's going to happen is that wavy action of water is going around that bait. Now, twofold there when it comes into the science of that is that if there's no force on the boot tail from that water going one way or the other, then the action of the boot tail is going to be less. However, if it's opposite the blade, you feel like that boot tail is going to have more action due to it having 100% full. I don't know what you would call it. I guess like you would have all that hydraulic pressure going to that boot tail. But I do feel like that I get better action when I have like a spike tail trailer, and that's something I'm finding out. That's why I really like that. The freeloader. I feel like it's the perfect size, and that little spike tail is awesome.
Yeah, it's just so much action, and it doesn't impede the front motion up front. I mean, it's like the the classic like the pulse jig, that was even well before the chatterbait ever came in, and a lot of people still throw that, but I always think about Dustin Connell is really big on throwing those, which it's a funny story. Him and oh gosh, Tucker, the Bassmaster young kid, came into Waterfront when we were there, and they look so young. It's unreal. Like seeing those guys. Just I don't know how old Connell is, but man, he looks so young in real life.
Speaking of which, shout out to Dylan Nutt for knocking off the Bassmaster Classic. His twin brother won the college series at the same time. Like, I've said it 100 times, and I've been I guess I've been guilty of it in my life too. I won't say that I'm, not guilty. But I don't know what it is about bass fishing as a whole where people can't be happy for other people for successes. And it absolutely makes me cringe and think of the fact that I consider myself to be a huge part, well, not a huge part. Bass fishing is a huge part of my life. We'll put it that way. I'm not a huge part of bass fishing. There's very few people that know me. But when I look at posts about this young kid winning the Bassmaster Classic, and people are one of two camps. People are extremely excited for this kid, as I am. And then you have the opposite side of that, where you have people that absolutely are dogging on this kid because he won the Bassmaster Classic using technology that's available today. It absolutely crushes my soul to think that we as bass fishermen have got to a point where we can't let a dude win the biggest tournament that has ever been produced on the planet as the Bassmaster Classic. Like everybody that has ever held a Zebco 33 in their hands that's caught more than a couple hundred bass in their day has had a dream at some point to go fish the Bassmaster Classic. And this kid absolutely not just won it, freaking annihilated the whole entire field. And he was using forward facing sonar. And people can't give him credit for that. Like, give people credit where credit's due and stop being haters. Like, I know that forward facing sonar has changed the sport of bass fishing. And it has changed the sport of bass fishing for myself, for JR, everybody I've known. Because if you're not using it in a tournament that it's allowed to be used in, you're going to get beat 9 times out of 10 by somebody that is better at using it or has it. That's just the fact of the matter. But the fact that we are now, as bass fishermen, coming into a society where it is so negative and it is so like it's so divisive, and everybody's like, you know what, he wouldn't have won a forward facing sonar. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, I wouldn't have won a period. But being there would be the dream, and we can't let this kid have his time in the shining because he's using technology that's available. It blows my mind.
Dude, I mean, it's not easy. Like, it's not like you buy it and then you're automatically throwing fish in the boat. Like, it's not easy. It's I don't know. I feel like people should be able to use it. I mean, it's unreal. And that kid, I mean, 22 years old, winning the Bassmaster Classic. I watched a lot of that. I mean, he was incredible. He
he's
was
awesome. Like, and I think Taylor has a really good point here that he's young, and like all these old heads that, I don't want to go to a tournament and get my rear end kicked by a 22-year-old either, but it's going to happen. It happens every weekend. You got Cameron Dials, who's not much older than that. He goes out and shows dudes how to catch fish every weekend. But he's the simple fact that it takes time to learn the skill. Like, if you take forward facing sonar out of it and you put a guy that's on a lake as much as Cameron or as much as the Nut is, or as much as a Fisher Naya is, or even like G-Man, or you're looking at Matt Robertson, these people that are making a living fishing, they're fishing 5 to 7 days a week. And if they didn't have forward facing sonar, these guys would still find a way to catch fish to be competitive. Now, would weights be different? Sure. There would be probably half as many fish caught. There might be 3 or 4 big fish caught all day, and then you go in with 15 to 20 pounds, you got a chance of winning. But if you think about it, Dylan comes in with a 26-pound sack on one day of the Bassmaster Classic at, the Kentucky or the Tennessee River, which is absolutely unheard of usually. And then you have the guy catching a 7.5 pound, what I think is a mean-mouth bass.
Dakota E-Bear.
Yeah,
that was the best part of the whole tournament for me. I love that.
I think it was a mean mouth. It looked like a mean mouth to me. It looked like a hybrid between a spot and a largemouth.
Smallmouth.
I don't care if it was a largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, or a mixture of all three. A 7.5 pounder is a freaking stud.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. And then having talked to that guy, he is like a super nice guy. I was like really happy for him.
Yeah, Todd, I think you're right there. It's all about the time that you use, what you have. I consider myself to be a mediocre fisherman at best. I'm definitely not a pro. I have a lot of really nice equipment on my boat. Again, I have a LVS 34 system on my boat. I have two Humminbird Solix 15s. Got the best batteries money can buy. A really nice, Ultrex Quest trolling motor, and I'm running it on a 2006 boat. I could put Dylan Nutt or Fisher Anaya or any of these other guys in my boat, and they could switch for me into one of their pros boats, and they're still going to kick my rear end because they know how to use this stuff way better than I do. They just and it's not just like gimmicky. Like I've played video games with people that are like naturally good, right? They can pick up a video game controller like this right here, and they can come and whip my rear end at Call of Duty. Like they just have natural talent. Now I feel like natural talent is kind of out the door with bass fishing anymore because it's not something you're born with, right? It's a skill that you're learning. It's a science that you're trying to master. It's an art form more than anything because what you thought was a science the day before doesn't happen the next day. And that's the thing. Like I've had a lot of people ask me, like, Tyler, why do you create these videos on YouTube and show people, one, not only what you're catching them on, but two, how you're catching them and where you're catching them out in the lake? And I'll just be honest with anybody that I tell that, and if you've ever talked to me and heard me say this is a true story, I feel like I can go out on a lake and I can find out what they're eating one day and go back the second day and not catch a fish on it at the same spot. It's like it's all about you and Mother Nature, and it's like mano a mano, may the best man win. It's survival of the fittest at its core, and just like this weekend, I can speak from experience. I went out to Grayson on Saturday. Realized that I forgot to do some things that I went home early, but I ended up catching some fish on a spinnerbait. I mean, I caught 7 fish in the first 2-3 hours I was there. So they were eating a spinnerbait. Go back out there on Sunday, start throwing a spinnerbait down the same bank that I caught those fish on the day before and never got a sniff. Picked up a Spro Little John Type R and threw it 3 casts and caught a fish. Ended up catching 17 fish that day, a crappie and a bluegill on the same bait. Same conditions, same water pattern, same water clarity, same water temperature, same barometric pressure, just different days.
Yeah, man. That lake is full of dinks, though. Golly.
No, man. Yeah, dude, do so. I could probably text Ronnie and see if he's got it. We'll definitely get that. First off, Jason, man, I'm glad you're doing okay. So that you were in a horrible accident and in the hospital for a few days with some internal bleeding. Glad that they got you taken care of down there and back of posting about the Florida strain bass. First off, I'm gonna get destroyed over this post because I have a video coming out, and I know that Jason and I have talked about it in the past. Like, you can't take over your limit out of a lake. I know that. Like, for example, I wanted to, if we had a tournament out there and we're all fishing at Grayson and we catch 100 unders as a group, you can't give that 100 fish to one person and then take them out of there. I guess that's against the law, according to, because it's a possession limit. That's why they have a krill limit and a possession limit. Krill limit is how many fish you can catch per day. Possession limit is how many that you can have at any given time. Usually that's your limit by how many ever days that you're fishing at a place. But this weekend I was fishing at Grayson. Again, I do my part now. Thanks to Jason spreading the word and stuff. Let me know that catch and release is not it anymore. We need to make sure we're taking some fish out of places. If you want to grow a true trophy size bass, no matter if you're fishing in a private pond behind your house like Jared's got, or someplace like Grayson or Yatesville or Paintsville, you have to harvest some smaller bass to kind of equal out the equilibrium of the ecosystem to make the bait fish and the predatory fish even out, right? Because normally what's happening now, we have 3 times the amount of predatory fish that we have prey, so the fish never get any bigger. We have this stunted growth thing. But I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't even know if what I did this weekend was legal. What I did was I went out to Grayson. I caught 6 bass, which was my limit in Kentucky. I do have a Kentucky fishing license, but I transported those live fish from that lake to JR's private pond. And I looked online because I wanted to make sure, because I know somebody's going to call me out on my YouTube video, which is fine. I want people to hold me accountable when I'm doing stuff wrong. I definitely don't want to get fined, and I don't want to do anything wrong. But the 6 bass were my fish to take out of there. But I looked on the website, and the website has this really gray area explanation. And the gray area explanation says, let me just find it and I'll read it to you and get what you guys think about it. But to me, it's almost like they left a place there for them to hang you if you did what I did.
I actually think I saw them out there electro fishing or whatever again too. So maybe they actually do care a little bit.
I saw them there. Let's see. According to the AIs here, it says that an angler with a valid Kentucky fishing license can transport legally taken sport fish. They must comply with all Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources regulations regarding daily limits, size restriction, and species. Fish being transported must be intact or packaged in a way that allows species and size identification. But it doesn't. That to me tells me that they're dead fish. Regulation says transportation is authorized if fish were legally caught, which they have. Restrictions: you cannot transport live fish in any way to introduce them into other public waters, which is not public waters. It's private. It's on JR's own private property. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? It was just kind of weird how they...
Yeah. I wish they were a little bigger, but you know.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I turned the biggest bass loose that's in his pond this past weekend, 2.5 pounds.
Yeah, that bass is in there eating some bluegill, hopefully.
Just absolutely gorging on food.
So,
I will say, though, when I turned those bass loose, dude, stuff went crazy in that pond.
yeah.
Like, it was nuts. I mean, I don't know how many fish that we've put in there in the last couple of years. It's probably 200 or more, just 6 fish at a time. But again, I'm glad that's true, because I definitely didn't want Mr. Green Jean showing up in my house and be like, hey, here's the ticket for transporting bass. I know that you can't transport them from, like, catch them at Paintsville and put them in at Yatesville. I know that that's illegal because that's public water to public water, but the way I read it, it was like I could do with them what I wanted to do as long as it was for my own use and my own consumption or whatever, but I couldn't transport it from public to public. I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. And I definitely didn't want Mr. Green Jane showing up and saying, here's $500 fine for stocking a buddy's pond.
Why are we worried about this? You know, like that's the thing that instead of us thinking, okay, well, the fish and wildlife is not on our side, we're worried. We're worried about that kind of stuff when we're the biggest advocates for bass fishing that you can find. That's kind of what it comes down to, is like, why are we in the mindset that these guys are going to do something bad to us? We should be in the mindset that, these guys are the ones that are going to fight for us, and we would fight for them in the same way. And that's the whole.
Well, I mean, like right now, I can't speak for Ohio because Ohio has weird regulations too. Kentucky, though, again, guys, I preach this every week, but if you guys are not part of the Anglers for Improving Opportunities page on Facebook, definitely go over there and join that. Even if you're not local, there's awesome, a lot of it is about Florida strain bass in Kentucky and other places too, talking about trying to basically giving some knowledge out there to try to grow the biggest bass we can, which is great. But one of the weirdest things I think about in Kentucky is that in Ohio too, it's illegal to possess Florida strain bass. Like, for example, JR has like a half-acre pond at his house he built last year. We've stocked it with bluegill, and bass. That's all it's in there. And some like crappie minnows, bass minnows, stuff for them to forage on. But let's just say that JR wants to buy 100 Florida strain bass and put them in his own private pond. There's restrictions against that in Ohio and Kentucky. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I guess months ago now. I'm sure you guys know, or if you don't know already, they drained Vesuvius Lake, which is it's like a 300-acre lake in Lawrence County, Ohio, which had bigs in it. Man, like it was the other than like Gatesville, Paintsville, it was the third place that I would go to try to catch a bass 8 pounds or bigger. Like they're just in there. They're not in there like chock full like cordwood, but you have a really good. You have a better chance to catch an 8-pounder there than any place else I fish. Well, they had something go wrong with the dam, drained it down to, I'm talking like a babbling brook running through the center of this thing. It was like like Paddle Creek was running through it. I contacted the Forestry Service. Like, hey, this is a great opportunity for you guys to save face here and do something good for the area. Let's put some Florida strain bass in this lake. One, it gets fished a lot, but it doesn't get fished that often. There's a lot of places that would benefit from having these Florida strain bass in there. There's a bunch of pizza shops and stuff around the lake. There's a gas station a couple miles away. You could even charge for putting boats in the boat ramp to keep everything going. And they first initially emailed me back, was like, I think this is a great idea. We'll definitely keep this in a loop. This is also all the stuff, all the points that you guys that you're making right now makes a lot of sense to us, And I even said, hey, if you want somebody to pay for the first load of Florida strain bass, I will be the one to spearhead that, and I will get enough donations to put that first one in there, whether that's 5,000, 500, or 5 bass, whatever I can get, we'll put them in there. And they was like, I think it's a great idea. And about 30 minutes later, I get an email from the same lady who, as JR mentioned, as a doctor, it's a dot phrase. They just like copy and pasted it from somebody else's email that said, having Florida strain bass in Ohio is illegal and it's punishable by law. Like, made me feel like I was a freaking convict for even talking about putting Florida strain bass in there. Like, at what point do we as anglers have to understand that there's probably no 100% northern bass that exists anymore? I don't think. I mean, maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just antiquated thought process by uneducated people. So Gary says, how effective would a wacky rig or drop shot work this early in your opinion? So Gary, I would say those two will always catch bass. It just depends on where you're throwing it. A drop shot, you can fish from a foot to 100 feet, just depending upon weight. So it'll be effective. Wacky rig, I like throwing around docks and things like that. There are always resident shallow bass. So I think they're both effective all year round. They may be a little bit more effective. A wacky rig might be a little bit more effective when, it's hotter or they're more shallow. But I would say those two rigs are two staples in bass fishing that are always going to catch them.
Absolutely. And I think when you come down to the obviously right now, this is the year of the urchin bait. And dude, Sean Weeda come up with a tag phrase that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. He said he was out there jerking an urchin.
Jerking an urchin.
But you could drop shot I wouldn't throw an actual urchin bait, but something like a fuzzy dice or something like that. Really good on drop shot. Obviously, you could throw it on a wacky rig if you wanted to too. I am kind of a weirdo. If I'm throwing a wacky rig, it's always weighted. I never throw a weightless finesse wacky rig, and it's probably why I don't catch bigs or a bunch of them. I know it does catch fish, but man, I am so freaking like I just can't sit there and watch it sink like this. Like, it has to have some flutter to it and some fall to it. But those are definitely basses or baits, as Jared mentioned. They'll catch bass 100% of the time. I have one tied on my deck, either a drop shot or a wacky rig every minute of the day in my boat, whether I pick it up or not. Kind of depends on how the bass are fishing or feeding. this time of year, man, I feel like the Action City is where you need to be if you guys are big on marling baits. By the way, if you guys need another something to get into, even if you don't build baits, go out and subscribe to Marling Baits YouTube channel. The dude makes some awesome baits. He makes really good videos about it too. But if he has a bait that moves really well, he calls it Action City. But I feel like this time, especially the springtime, action is king. Chatterbait, spinnerbait, crankbaits, something like that I'll be throwing. Todd and I were talking about it earlier today. One of my favorite baits to throw this time of year is a rattle trap. Got a lot of action there. But don't sleep on the Rapala Shad Rap. That's an awesome bait. The Shad Rap, I always get it confused. I think there's a 3, 5, and a 7. I think I throw the Shad Rap 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely want those sides out and very tight wobble. I think that's kind of the key to the earlier cold water hunting action. That's why those baits are so good right now.
Yeah, Shane, I don't know if Jared put your comment up there about the stock and largemouth. The closest hatchery that I know of, there's 2 of them. One of them is on the way to Rocky Fork, around Raritan. Maybe it's on the. I don't think it's Raritan. It's somewhere before you get to Rocky Fork. But there's also one around Athens. What is it called? Lake. The heck is it? It's not Lake White. It's. But anyway, those are the 2 places. I couldn't tell you where they buy them. If I'm being honest, I'm sure it's the lowest bidder. But I think that we have our own hatcheries around the state. That's where they get them from. But like I said, I've learned a lot from Jason's page and him putting out a lot of information about it. But I keep going back to the simple fact that all wildlife biologists and all people in all states always say that if you put F1s in a lake, it will destroy the pure northern lineage, which is true. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're going to hybridize. There's no way around it because a fish is an opportunistic feeder. They're also an opportunistic spawning fish. They will spawn with anything is around. They will also procreate as much as possible. And they are cannibals. They'll eat their own babies. Like it's a wild world to be a bass. But I don't feel like that there is a true 100% northern fish anymore. And if you look at some of the biggest bass that's been caught in this area in the last 50 years, if you go back to Delbert Grizzle's bass from this 2 bass that he caught back to back, that was a state record for a while, they were not northern lineage bass. They were like, matter of fact, Jason posted the other day that they actually came to the Greenbow, or actually it wasn't Greenbow, it was I think it was the bass that we posted the other day, the 11-pounder that the car guy caught, that they, they're doing, they're sampling the bass for DNA and looking at that stuff. But you have the new state record bass, in Kentucky, which was caught in a stocked lake that is known to have Florida strain bass in it. You have that 15+ pound bass that was caught down at Nickajack the other day. Know that that's a Florida strain bass because, again, they're stocking Florida strain bass. I'm not sure that they put Floridas in Nickajack, but it doesn't take a real long time for a fish to swim upstream the Tennessee River from places that they do stock them in, like Chickamauga, which is directly below there. So you could swim through the locks of the dam, and guess what? You have Florida strain bass in there. But I have a hard time seeing the negatives of Florida strain bass. And the fact of the matter is that they get bigger twice as fast. The Wildlife Agency, which was the National Park Service, or the State Park Service from Vesuvius, one of their rebuttals was that they eat twice as much as a northern bass, and it costs twice as much to keep the prey in there, which is probably true. But the negative sides, I see that, the positive sides is that if I am a state agency and I want you and I to catch as much fish as I can to eat, right? Because that should be like number one priority, is like how much fish is being eaten, because 1, it's a great meal. 2, it's healthy for you. 3, you got to get out and kind of work for it. And it's a renewable resource. But how many fish are being eaten? Well, if I catch a 2-pound northern strain bass that is 2 years long or 2 years old, and I catch a 6-pound Florida strain bass that is 2.5, 3 years old, I'm getting 3 times the amount of meat from that Florida strain bass. They don't taste any different from what I understand. There's no, like, I feel like even a hybridized fish, usually if you kind of like look at real world scenarios, if you look like a mutt dog, right? If you go to the highest end breeder of the highest end lineage of Labrador retrievers, right? Let's say you have somebody that has a grand champion for year after year after year, and you pay $5,000 for a lab. A lot of times those dogs are unhealthy. They just have been bred to death, the same bloodline over and over and over and over. Next thing you know, they got some weird disease you never even known of. But you can go pick a mutt up out of the dog pound, and you won't even have to spray those jokers for fleas.
Yeah, pure lineages are actually a lot more prone to cancers, and I mean, there's a million different. This argument just has no ground anymore. I wish Kentucky was like Tennessee. I mean, I think Tennessee and Alabama just have these incredible, they look at the value of it. I mean, I was watching a thing from the guys at GTO Waterfront at Gunnersville, and they specifically said, we cannot wait for this weekend because it's the big bash splash, and that brings millions upon millions of dollars into our community. And I mean, they can see it. Why can't Kentucky?
Right. So, I mean, like, if you just look at the economic impact that Florida strain bass have on an area, like, I don't know the exact numbers. I'm trying to Google them, but it's going to be tough to find right now. But I added it in that email that I sent to the Forestry Service. And obviously, Lake Fork is way different because Lake Fork's, one, a giant lake, but two, they have built it to be a trophy population lake. They stocked 100%. Well, I don't know about 100%, but they stocked a lot of Florida strain bass in there, and they continue to do so. But the economic impact study, and it was done in like 2015, so we're talking 11 years ago. In 2015, it was my numbers may be off here, so don't quote me on this, but it was something like, on average, an angler spends in around the Lake Fork area on food, fuel, baits, tackle, etc. It was like $137 a day. The economic impact of that lake was like $150 million a year just from fishermen fishing around that lake. Now, again, we're not comparing apples to apples here. We're talking about, if we look at Vesuvius versus Lake Fork, right? It's like Vesuvius is about as big as one Lake Fork cove, but the economic impact could be, even if it's 1/10 that, man. Can you imagine like putting $15 million into Ironton, Ohio? Like, there's a lot. And just like Jason said, people are going to travel to catch these bass. I do. If I want to catch a trophy smallmouth bass, I'm going to Lake Erie, or I'm going to go to Lake St. Clair, or I'm actually this spring going to go to Mille Lacs. Like, I travel for these fish, and I'm not the only one. There's 10 other people on this, watching this podcast right now that'll probably travel at an average of 1,000 miles this year just to go catch a trophy bass. And we're not the only ones, right? I mean, we could be spending that money right here at home, as opposed to in every other state that knows what's happening here. They understand the economic impacts of bass fishing. And I feel like that, that Ohio and Kentucky are, there's some people in the background politically that are somehow getting kickback from this. Is the only thing I can figure out, because why would they care if it's taxpayer dollars and the taxpayers are advocating for this? Why do they care? Dude, I like Grayson. I don't know, man. People give it a hard time, but
I'm not a fan. I think I'd rather fish the river than Grayson. Smith Mountain, speaking of Florida strain bass, Florida stream bass in Virginia, Smith Mountain Lake. I went one time. I went too early and could not find anything, but it was a long time ago.
So I'm ignorant. They do have they did stock in Smith Mountain.
Yeah, that's been a long time ago. Actually, it's I don't know if they were one of the first ones to do it, but they did it quite some time ago. And I mean, you see people catching 8-pounders all the time out of there, and that's why they have the big bass splash there. Could you imagine the big bass splash comes to Cave Run Lake in Kentucky? You know, like how much money that would bring.
Right, and like it's the most genius marketing event ever.
Mm-hmm.
They also do the same thing similar to in Lake Erie, but it's even less than that. So like, I hope we're talking about the same thing here. In the big bass splash where they go and they tag so many fish.
Well, so the big bass splash is the one where they have like weigh-ins every hour. So like it'll be like hour 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
so
biggest weight wins like $500. And I
but
mean,
you don't have to weigh in those
deal.
hours, right? If you like think that the third hour is going to be tough, you can keep that fishing alive well. Like you don't have to you don't have to catch in that. It's like there's strategic stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
But like what I was talking. And what happens is that they tag like 1,000 fish or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's 1,000. I think they electroshock so many fish up and they tag them. And how many fish? And I guess I'm sure there's got to be data points to it. I mean, surely somebody's keeping track of this stuff. But let's just say they tag 1,000 fish, and those 1,000 fish are jackpot fish, meaning that you win a certain amount of money. How many of those fish, one, not only die from just standard morbidity rates, two, get eaten by another fish, or three, get caught by somebody who doesn't have that $50 paid in? I bet it's a lot. So how much money is getting paid in versus paid out? I bet there is a substantial amount being kept in an like an overage account.
I forget what they call that. I'm trying to find it right now because Bass Cash Bash. That's a tongue
twister.
Twister. So they have that in a lot of the big ones. The big lakes throughout the United States, like Fork and Rayburn and Gunnersville. They're on that. I actually follow those guys when I was down there, and I mean they post people every day they catch it. I mean they're from dinky little bass. Yeah, like here's like a tiny one like on Rayburn that has the tag right there, and that dude won $1,000 for signing up. It's a novel idea.
They do that kind of like in Lake Erie with walleye, but they don't tag them. It's just the biggest fish. It's called the Fall Brawl. And it's not that expensive either. It's like $50 a boat or $50 a team or something to get in there. And, you fish for like 2 months, and the biggest fish caught in those 2 months weighed in like a legit weight site. You win a freaking boat. It's pretty amazing. But think about that. Let's just say that we put, we'll look at a bigger lake. Let's look at Paintsville or Cave Run or someplace like that you would see a lot more boats on because there's just more water, right? If you stocked F1s in Vesuvius, one of the things I will tell you, in 10 years when there's a 15-pound bass showing them out of there, you could walk deck to deck to deck from boats that are in there stacked in. Like it would be nuts. Like you wouldn't be able to get a kayak in there. But if let's just say you stock F1s in Cave Run or even Yatesville or Paintsville or something like that, and you said, you know what, we're going to do that. We're going to say biggest fish. We're going to call it the Fall Brawl, just like we do it at Erie. And we're going to say the biggest bass caught within like, I don't know, September, October, November, those 3 months, $50 a person. Biggest bass wins $10,000. How many people would fish? Not only from this area, man, like One of the hardest things I have to understand as a bass angler in this area is I literally live in the armpit of America for bass fishing, and yet it absolutely consumes my life. And so many other people around here love bass fishing. If you don't believe me, Casey Watts just had an awesome tournament this past weekend, 50 some boats. We're going to have a big one out there this weekend. Like every weekend at Yatesville, there's 50 boats, or probably more like 100 or 200 boats if you talk about the people that are just out there fun fishing or hanging out with their families. Now, if you give me the opportunity to drive an hour or 2 hours like Paintsville, if I have an opportunity to go to Paintsville to catch a fish that could win me $10,000, I'm going to be there a lot more often. My money is going to be put in gas stations around the area. I'm going to go get gas somewhere next to the lake because I don't want to haul that gas all the way down there. I'm going to stop at McDonald's down there by it. I'm going to grab me a biscuit, and I'm going to go to the gas station, grab me a Red Bull and some donuts, and I'm going to go up the street. And that money was made here in Lawrence County, Ohio, but was spent in, in Paintsville, Kentucky. So it does have a huge economic impact everywhere. Tony, I caught one of those F1s. Matter of fact, it's the biggest bass I've ever caught in my life. Still haven't broke that 7 pound mark, 6.5 pounds. Matter of fact, the smallmouth I've caught has almost outweighed the largemouth, which is crazy. Let's see. Hebron State Fish Hatchery, even though it says they supply bluegill, channel catfish. What is the name of that lake? God, I'm thinking of it. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
They will not stock them, and they don't want them in there. Well, they're already there.
Lake Snowden. Lake Snowden. I think Lake Snowden Fish Hatchery. It's on the backside of the Lake Snowden Fishing. And matter of fact, man, up until a couple years ago, on their website here, and it's all gone now, but you could buy tiger bass, aka F1s, from them. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't even say what kind of fish you can buy from them anymore. But it's Fish Management and Agriculture Sciences, which is part of Hocking University, is in Athens, Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked about going up there and doing that a long time ago.
That's the thing about Old Hickory. Why did they pick Old Hickory for the Champions Tournament?
I thought that was strange. I never even heard of that place.
Dude, it's outside of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And it kind of reminds you, they've had tournaments down there for years, but it's not a bad lake, but it's not something like Chickamauga is not too much farther from there, but somebody must have some political deals there. Somebody got a lake house. They want to be able to watch the whole tournament from their lake. It's not a giant lake either, but I just don't get it. Like you're putting 50 of the top anglers on the planet. You're getting 25 from bass, 25 from FLW, and pitting them against each other, which is the first time it's ever happened, for $1 million payout. And they said, you know what? Let's go to Old Hickory.
we're gonna put this on Lake Vesuvius.
Right.
Oh man.
22,500 acres for the Old Hickory. Crazy.
Maybe they just wanted something that people didn't have much experience on. I don't know. That's all I got. But they're gonna learn it quick.
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna be
that small.
I can't wait for that tournament though. It's gonna be awesome. Bass fishing, man, and bass fishing in the last 10 years has changed. Not only the coverage of it, but just I feel like the camaraderie of bass fishing will never be what it once was. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, on Saturday mornings, getting up, hearing Tommy Sanders saying, "This is the Bassmasters," and then you would have him talking about all that stuff, and then you like, the sun's just coming up over the treetops. We got Bill Dance, Roland Martin. One of my favorite shows that ever existed, ever, and I wasn't a saltwater guy, and I would love to catch saltwater fish. And I'm trying to think of the name of the show, man. It was a Spanish Fly, man. It was hosted by a fella named Jose Wahebe. One of my favorite shows on the planet to watch. I'm not a saltwater fisherman. I'm not um, a fly fisherman, but dude, like it was like prime 90s entertainment. It was awesome. Maybe that's why they chose it. Maybe I just don't know about Old Hickory. Maybe it's the best kept secret in the United States. We'll find out because if there's 8 to 10 pounders in there, those jokers will catch them. I guarantee you that. Look at this guy.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. Jared, I have a Jordan rookie card. I'd like to sell for a new bass cat. Dude, speaking of bass cats, I've not been a huge fan of bass cat, but in the last 3 months, dude, the new ones I just absolutely drool over. Chris Malone's got a bass cat Lynx down there at his shop right now. It might be the sexiest boat I've ever seen in my life. It's black and white. Oh my god, it's super hot. It's super nice boat. I love it. Well, I mean, you guys saw the viral video that was showing everybody getting outrun this past weekend. I think it was was Tucker Smith or somebody was freaking had the daggone thing up on the plug and was outrunning people by a lot. Bass cat boats are super fast anyway, but what on earth are we doing paying $130,000+ for a bass boat?
Crazy. They ain't going to sell, man.
Yeah, Jason, I think you're talking about like the one where he shows like his cell phone, basically saying like, you know, it's a new technology and people are going to use it. It was pretty good. But Jared, I do have some cards you need to get with me I'll get with you here in the next couple weeks because I got some stuff. Matter of fact, I just dug this right here out of the old. I'm sure this is probably not even a legit set anymore, but the old Jordan Rare Air. Trying to, trying to supplement my my fishing habit. I can't even get this card out of here. But yeah, the Rare Air, baby. Huh. Jordan says, I love to compete, but if I'm going to play, then I'm going to play to win. That's enjoyable to me. Same, dude. Same. Mark, I'm with you, dude. Crazy. I'm telling you, that bass cat he's got down there is the sexiest boat I've seen in a whole long time. It's almost as sexy as my 2006 Stratus. Well, until she does. I know why she doesn't care. You keep her freaking barefoot and pregnant, bro. Dude, I don't know if you're talking about that the bass cat. I don't know, but I looked at bass cat Lynx average price online. They're $130,000 to $145,000. Crazy,
unreal.
I mean, I like him. I like going fast, but I do feel like if I was going to spend $140,000 on a boat, I'd just buy a Cadillac and buy like an Icon or something that's got like a freaking chiller in there, so my daggone bass are like living in an ice box. El Rey, my Stratus is not just as fast. It does all right. It's a 70-mile-an-hour boat. I've never caught a fish at 70, but I've never really caught one at 6 either. But it'd probably do better if I didn't have 10,000 pounds of gear in there. Which, by the way, I got some tungsten laying here on the deck of my computer table here. If you are in the need for tungsten, you need to buy it now. If you can find it cheap, because it is going to go astronomically high. China has stopped selling tungsten. A lot of it put a lot of stuff, a lot of tariffs and things on tungsten. They're limiting how much is being exported out of China due to wars and all that other crap. But tungsten is supposed to take a 500% raise in the next couple months. You heard it here first. Maybe you didn't hear it here first, but if you can find something that's cheap, definitely do so.
Heard it here first.
Dude, I don't even know. These cars aren't worth much because they're bent. They were in my attic, and they have they probably are worth $10,000, but they have a really nice they got that Pringles action going on. So this would not be a PSA 10. I don't know. You put it in a sleeve, they wouldn't know, right? If you put it in I don't know, man. These are.
Hey, Jared sent some of mine off, and they just sent them back and said, "Nah."
It's just like this is a whole set of Jordans. Like he's just lounging in his private jet there. Yeah, Rare Air.
There's a picture with him with Epstein on there.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Before we get off here, let me just see what this Jordan Rare Air is worth. I'm sure it's on Google, right? Dude, what is this? What is this? Hold on a second. Look at this. First off, maybe I need to put this thing in a slab. Don't even know what I got here. It's like I found a box full of Spro Little John type R's or something. But right here is the card. And let's look at this right here on the screen. $930. Shit, maybe I do have a basket here in my hand. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. All right, guys, we're way over that hour mark. Appreciate you guys sticking with us. It's been an awesome night. 25 to 35 of you folks out there watching. Always, enjoyable. Maybe we'll start at 8 o'clock every time. Seems like everybody's hopping on at this time, so it makes it really nice. But yeah, man, I really need to go up to my mom's attic because I guarantee you, I probably have. I'm guessing. I'd say on a low side, I probably got 100,000 basketball cards. It's probably not that much. I probably have 10,000. I bet.
Yeah, I had Jared go through mine. We sent a couple off, but we're still waiting.
No PSA. But anyway, guys, if you guys are fishing that tournament this weekend, again, Todd Cheney and I are going to be out there chunking and winding. Hopefully we catch more fish than you guys do, but that's probably not the case because I suck. Hopefully he can catch some fish. But we'll see you guys next time on the same bat time, same bat channel here on Another Line Live, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Got a full-length video coming out tomorrow on a recent trip to Grayson. The video's over an hour long. It took me 4 hours to edit it. So hopefully you guys enjoy it and watch the same 8 minutes of this first 8 minutes you guys watch and hop off there like normal. But it's all good. You guys know what to do if you guys can't get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of On Another Line Live. We truly appreciate your support, and we couldn't do it without all the amazing folks at home watching week after week. A big thank you goes out to our sponsors, who help make this show possible. Malone's Marine, Borders Sporting Goods, Solar Bat Sunglasses, Picasso Lures, Shimano, and Columbia Sportswear. Their partnership allows us to keep bringing you the content you love. We'll see you next time on Another Line. Until then, get out there and lean on them.